Arizona basketball gets a local commitment, and he will have a role this year.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show. The first thing we are going to talk about, though, is Evan Nelson. Then we're going to talk Brayden Burries, Carter the latest, Arsenault, who knows? New women's basketball coach, a Diaz message. There is going to be a lot to get to on this show. But the first thing that we need to talk about is what the deal is with Evan Nelson. Now, I've liked Evan Nelson for a long time as a basketball player. He's a good dude. I remember when he was a freshman at Mountain View, and he was one of the handful of best players in the city. By the time he was a junior, he was hands down the best player in the city. Went off to Harvard. And I think I'm pretty sure he graduated. Ended up playing there, though, 4 years. Last year, he averaged 9 points, shot 40-something% from three-point range. He's a good basketball player. Now, again, is he somebody that is going to start ever? No. Is he somebody that is going to play 30 minutes per game? No. But he's also going to be able to give you a lot of I think he's going to be able to be a solid practice player, and I do think that he's probably going to play 5 to 10 minutes per game. And the thing about it too is that he is he's going to be totally comfortable in that role. And I think that's something that a lot of people are not necessarily giving enough credence to. Is in this day and age, if you're going to find some players, you've got to know what they are going to be comfortable, what their role is going to be, and he knows exactly what that's going to be. There might be some games where he plays 15 minutes. There's also going to be some games where he probably plays 2 to 3 to 4 minutes. It just depends. Now, I will say he is a clear upgrade over Conrad. There's no doubt about that. He is he's not the biggest guy in the world, obviously, but he's a lot bigger than Conrad. He can bring the ball up the court. Listen, Tommy Lloyd obviously never really felt comfortable at all with Conrad as his point guard for any prolonged period of time. I mean, when he came in, he actually played fairly well, but at the end of the day, Conrad was kind of a charity scholarship. Tommy really liked him. Tommy was the only one on the staff that really liked him. Again, I'm not making Evan Nelson out like he's like this amazing player or anything at the D1 level, but he's an upgrade for sure. And it'll be interesting to see what he does. Now, keep in mind, too, that Arizona's point guard minutes are already spoken for. You've got to remember that. A lot of people, I don't get why a lot of people aren't getting that. Their minutes are spoken for. Brayden Burries and Jaden Bradley are going to play the point guard position. They are going to bring the ball up the court. That's going to be it. So you're not going to get a lot of transfers that are going to say, you know what? I view myself as a point guard, but I'm going to go there and not play point guard, and I'm going to take a massive pay cut or whatever for that. That's just not what's going to happen. And I think that's something that people need to understand, is that is not going to happen. Okay. Now now with Evan though, again, Evan, he can shoot the ball. That is something that you can always have. Obviously, people on this Arizona fans are obsessed with spacers, and so you get a spacer in there, and he can do a little bit, but again, he's not going to be the savior or anything. But as a ninth guy, I think he's pretty cool. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Brayden Burries then and his impact. Brayden Burries obviously is going to be a starter, and he is going to play a lot. He's going to probably play 30 minutes per game. Him and Jaden Bradley in the backcourt. Love that backcourt. He is both those guys are players that are going to be able to make a lot of impacts at a lot of different levels. He is how do I put this? When it comes to Brayden, he's a better natural ball handler, I think, than Caleb Love is. At the same time, though, he's also not somebody who I think is going to be mistaken for a for a true point guard. That's just not going to be his role, and that's fine. But he's going to play the point, and he's going to be really, really good at the point guard position when he does play it. The other thing too is I think you have to look at it and say that where is the grand scheme of things, then how does that play with Jaden Bradley? Politics. Both those guys are going to have to play the point guard spot, and nobody else is really going to play the point guard spot. Again, another one where I'm not really breaking any news here. They're just not going to play the point guard spot. So then you've got at the other side, then I think you've got to talk a little bit about who are those other guys going to be. And I'm going to say it right now, Dwayne Aristod, this coaching staff absolutely loves Dwayne Aristod. They believe that he's going to be a stud. They believe that he's going to come in and he's probably going to be, there's a chance that he could be a one and done type, like that he's that good. And there's a lot of reasons to believe that. First, you look at Aristod's background. He was a top 10 player before he got a foot injury, and that obviously set him back a little bit. But he should be full go by April or the end of April, and this is the same injury too that Kylan Boswell had, that Pella Larson had. So Arizona's going to be smart with it, but I think Arizona also knows as well that he's going to be ready to play. He's a big dude. He can run the court. He's physical. He can shoot the three. He can do a lot of different things. And like I said, this is a coaching staff that is very, very good when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so I got to give them a lot of credit here. This is a big time get for Arizona, and it's going to be exciting to see. Now, he's going to play a lot on the wing. That is something that is going to be pretty much non-negotiable. He's going to play a lot on the wing, and he's going to be kind of that secondary push the ball guy, like I would say kind of like a Dalen Terry. Again, he's not going to really be a point guard, but he's going to be able to push the ball, and they're going to be able to get. He's going to be able to get to where he wants on the court. Like I said, I think you're looking at him playing 15 to 20 minutes per game, and I think that it's going to be a very good spot for Arizona with that. And that's going to be, kind of the situation that you're going to have to figure out too with Carter. And we're going to talk about Carter here in a little bit. But, Dwayne Aristod is going to be one of your wings. Now, is this going to be a more traditional lineup? No, but it's going to be a huge lineup. And I think that's the part that's exciting about this. And, and for people that are worried about shooting, Brayden Burries can shoot. Obviously, Aristod can shoot. It'll be interesting if Carter Bryant comes back, who we're going to talk about in just a second. That will be the case as well. But this is going to be a very intriguing lineup for the University of Arizona. But first, TurboTax, my friends, TurboTax. All right, it is tax season. All right, this is a message from Intuit TurboTax. Here's the deal. Taxes are waiting and wondering and worrying if you are going to get what you're going to get back. That is a question. And then waiting and worrying some more. We've all been there. It's very annoying. An expert who gives you, and again, here's what's cool with taxes, is you can get a matching TurboTax expert who you could do your taxes with the same day. An expert who gives you taxes, who gives you and their undivided attention. They don't have like 10 billion things working on at once. And again, they're going to give you real-time updates as their progress, so you know on the day. And the thing about it too is that you will also get an expert who will find every deduction possible, and they're going to do everything with 100% accuracy. This is what they do. Also, you can get what you want back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Again, TurboTax, there's a reason everybody uses it. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only on iOS mobile app. See guarantees. Details at turbotax.com/guarantees. TurboTax, let them do all this stuff for you, and you don't have to hassle. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke, locked on your team every day. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant's going to be a top 20 pick. I don't think that there's any doubt about that, especially when he goes to test, if he tests well, he is he's going to be a high draft pick because he can shoot the three. He's long, he's athletic, he's a really good kid, comes from a good family. He is like I said, he's a really, really good player, and I think that's something that you got to keep in mind. But if he does come back, you don't have a lot of concerns, and I think that's something that because again, from the 3-point shot to the to the weak side shot blocking, like I said, he's a really good player, and I think if he came back, he could be an All-American. I really do. I mean, he's already got an NBA type game to him. He's got to work on his ball handling, obviously. He's also young. You can just tell that he's a young player. He's facially young. He's physically young. There's just, you watch him and you can just tell that that's a basketball player, that his best days are ahead of him. Now, with NIL, if you come back, you could pay him a lot of money, obviously. But at the same time, you also know as well that this is going to be a player that he could go from being a top 20 pick to a top 10 pick. And that's a little bit different because if you're a top 10 pick, then they have a lot more reason to be invested. Now, any first round pick a GM is going to be invested in, obviously. But if you are a first round pick that is that's later on in the draft, nobody's gonna really sweat anything if that pick doesn't hit. Just kind of the way it is. But if you're a lottery pick and you don't hit, that is going to come back on the GM. So the GM has every bit of a reason to want that to work. And that's, like I said, that's kind of a big part of all of this. So there's that. But I'm going to say this. If Carter Bryant does leave, this coaching staff knows exactly what it is doing. They know exactly who they're going to go after, and it will be a good player. It will not be roster filler. They're not going to be caught confused on what they're going to do. They're going to know exactly what to do. There's a big part of that. Now, Terrence Arsenault, I don't think you don't bring him in as a starter, I don't think, but he's somebody to keep an eye on, though. He just entered the transfer portal from Houston. He could end up at a lot of different places. He's certainly not Carter, but he's a tough guy. He kind of fits into that mantra of what you're looking at. Not a great shooter, but tough. He would be, like I said, he'd be a really good bench player. He was somebody that a lot of people have asked about, so put that one in there. But there's, again, when it comes to the portal, there's a lot of players in the portal, and there's also players too that you have to look at and say, okay, how could they fit in with this squad? How could they really go about, and there's a lot of guys, when you look at the portal and you're like, okay, this is who I'd like. There's not it's going to be difficult for people to find out who exactly that replacement would be. But again, this coaching staff, they know what they're doing. They've been at this a long time. They also know too what certain players are going to command, what certain players are going to, to be able to do. And again, they know what they're doing. You look at the front court. By and large, I think the front court is pretty much set. You've got the two centers, you've got Tobe and you've got Mo. Those are going to be the two. And again, I get a lot of people are out on Mo. I understand, but like I said, I'm going to keep going with Tommy Lloyd. Tommy Lloyd knows what he's doing. And he's shown that he knows what it is with big man. And Tobe Awaka back as well. Tobe is a stud. Tobe's, he plays really hard. He can finish around the hoop. He can do a lot of different things. He's a good basketball player. He's a good rebounder. He's going to struggle against some matchups, but you love having somebody like Tobe on the team because of everything that he can do. Maybe if Tobe stretches his game out a little bit, that would help Arizona. But either way, his gravitational pull when it comes to defense, basically everybody on the ground falls over, and he's always generally in the middle of it. But he's had some games this year where he absolutely annihilated Nate Biddle. He knows how to get physical. He knows how to get his girth into you, and like I said, he's a good basketball player. So those are going to be your two centers. And then with Koa Pete, that is somebody who is going to play 30 plus minutes per game. He is, you don't bring him in to play 18. He is, I get people that are like, well, Carter played 19 or whatever. That's a little bit of that's the difference though. Carter came in, Carter was really young, and Carter was more of a top 20 type player. Koa Pete's a top 5 to 8 player in his class, and he's a physical wrecking ball. He's been there. He's been doing this for a long time. He's a man. I mean, you could just tell him he's already got an NBA body. Koa is going to be very, very good for the University of Arizona. And people asking, yes, he's expected to be a one and done. He's that good. What kind of pro he's going to be, I don't know, but he should be in the NBA for a very long time. But there's names in the portal, and especially too if Carter does leave. I will say that if Carter does leave, I will say that. Arizona is going to have money, and Arizona is they know who they're looking at. And so don't worry about it. It'll be a good player. Okay. Now, what could that next step be then? So, guy we need to talk about for a second is Bryce James. Bryce James is interesting in all of this. He's probably going to redshirt this year, but he's also going to be a player that when he is by the time he's in his second, third year here, he should be able to be pretty good. He's going to be 6'7". He can shoot the three. He can do a lot of different things. He's just, like I said, he's young. He's not nearly the athlete that Bronny is, but he's also going to be 5-6 inches taller than Bronny. So, and Bronny is he's going to be an NBA player. I know that there's nepotism involved in all of that, but at the end of the day, I get all that one. That's like I said, that will be fun to follow. Also, Andre Iguodala Jr. We'll see how this one plays out. I think Bryce is better than him right now, but if Iggy's okay being a developmental guy who will stick around, that makes a lot of sense. You want to be able to get players that. You want to be able to get players that are going to stick around, and I think that's why if you're looking at developmental players, you've got to go with that, and you've got to know that they don't necessarily need money. Again, not breaking any news there. So Arizona is going to be in really good shape either way. This is a coaching staff that knows what it's doing, and I think it's shown that. Now we're going to talk a little bit of Arizona women's basketball here. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk a little Arizona women's basketball. Becky Burke from Buffalo has been hired. I like this hire. She's young, she's energetic, and she's going into a situation where she's going to have to be young and energetic, and I think she's going to fit well. Everything you see with her is that teams get better. She's got upside, and she's easy to be around. That's something too that with Adia Barnes is not easy to be around. And at the end, nobody was really. I'll put it to you like this: nobody was really sad to see Adia go. Wish her nothing but the best. She basically kicked Arizona on the way out. I get all of that, but the problem with Adia is that Adia had basically capped out. And if anything, she was getting worse because, again, the issue is she was bringing in talent. She was bringing in all-American type players. And guess what? They were all they weren't getting better. They weren't as good as they were supposed to be, whatever the case may be. But she had loaded rosters. She was able to bring in the players she needed. And most of those players ended up being really, really good somewhere else. Like I said, don't really know how else to put that. Those players just ended up being good somewhere else. So when it comes to her though, we'll see. But this was a move that had to be made. This is, like I said, she did some really good stuff. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, she was a coach that I think had seen her time, and just kind of is what it is. But now with Burke, you got to hit the ground running. Maybe you bring in a couple players. I don't know, but it's going to be a rebuild. But one thing that I think people need to understand is this isn't. You aren't hitting. You aren't hitting Arizona like when you're like, oh, you know what, this is a great team. How are you going to rebuild? Let's be honest here. We can be honest. Arizona was not good this past year. They weren't a tournament team. They lost to NAU twice. This isn't, and it wasn't getting better. It was getting worse. And, Adia can blame what she wants, but she had enough players and it just, they just didn't develop, whatever the case may be. Burke's going to be an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. The other thing too, and I know that people hate hearing this, is that you can't at Arizona, when you've got a financial issue as well, you can't be paying a coach $1.2 million for women's basketball, especially if they're not going to be good. And I know that, people don't like talking about this, but women's basketball loses money. When you've got the best programs in the country and they still lose money, it is what it is. When you've got $1.2 million, you can't be giving that to $1.2 million. You can't be giving that to, a coach that's not even getting into the NCAA tournament or barely squeaking in. Is what it is. So, Burke's making half that, whatever the case may be. I think that's probably a little bit more in line, and we'll see what happens here. One thing about it is DRF has done a very nice job of developing. DRF has done a very, very nice job of hiring women's basketball coaches in the past. She's got a pretty good Rolodex when it comes to this. So we'll see. Again, it's not the best job in the Big 12. That's for sure. I get it. But that's also because other things are going to be prioritized, which need to be prioritized. But we'll see. It should be interesting. There's a press conference later today. I'm curious to see how this plays out. But I think it's also going to be a breath of fresh air. Because Adia kind of ran this thing with an iron fist, and I don't think that anybody is going to really miss her. Okay, now, getting back to some Arizona men's basketball, though, Evan Nelson committing here. I like it. Like I said, we've been hinting about this on the show for quite a while. He's a low-maintenance guy, and again, he's not going to cost a lot. A lot of these players, like when someone's like, well, just bring in this player from the Mountain West or whatever, well, that player's price tag is probably $600,000 or whatever the case may be. For the minutes that Arizona has left, the roles that Arizona has left, they don't have that kind of money. Most schools don't. This is a high-priced roster. I don't know how else to put this. This is a high-priced roster. When you've got Burries, when you've got Pete, whether you've got Carter or your replacement, that's $3+ million right there. Again, those are guys that are going to cost a lot. You've got other guys coming in as well that are, in the mid five or mid hundred thousands. So, do that with it as it may, but you need to look at it though and understand that this also isn't just as simple as saying, hey, we're just going to cut like 2 players and then we'll use that towards another good player. That's not how this works. Also a guy too, I think ADO, you're going to see him as you're the 5th perimeter player next year. And I think that's going to be a good thing for him. I like ADO. I mean, everybody knows that I like ADO. And I think his role as a 5th perimeter player is going to be just fine. He could shoot the 3. He's better offensively. And again, I get that defensively he's not great. I get all of that, but as your 5th guy, totally take it. Like I said, I expect this to be Tommy Lloyd's most talented team. So, we'll see. Now, we're going to start, obviously, we're going to keep talking basketball, leading with that. We're going to play the hits around here. But coming up next week, we're also going to start breaking down Arizona football and everything that's going on because there's a lot of good stuff. Hope obviously always springs eternal, but you've got an offensive coordinator in there now that actually knows what he's doing. That's a big thing. And you've got a roster that, yes, you've lost T-Mac, but at the same time, you've also got a roster where you've got some really darn good players on the wide receiver and running back positions. So, like I said, we'll see how that one does play out. But like I said, great time to be an Arizona fan. We'll be talking a lot more about that. There's going to be more Arizona basketball news coming in as well, and this is the place to be. All right. But as always, very much appreciate you all, and thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Also, like I said, Evan Nelson coming back to town. Very cool. You generally don't see a Tucson player go ahead and do that. They did just that. We'll be talking all about that this coming week and, on Locked On Wildcats. You have a great rest of your Friday.